Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a question that often lingers in the quiet corners of conversations, yet few dare to ask out loud. Do men over 70 still need women? At first glance, some may chuckle and say, "At that age, what's the point?" Others may shake their heads and claim, "Men should focus on their health and peace of mind, not relationships." But the truth, my friends, might surprise you. Because even at 70, 75, or 80, the bond between men and women carries a depth that is not about youth, appearance, or fleeting passions. It's about something far more powerful: companionship, meaning, and the spark that makes life worth living. Now, when we talk about men in their 70s and beyond, it's important to step into their shoes for a moment. Imagine a man who has worked his whole life, raised a family, built his home, and perhaps now lives in the quieter chapter of retirement. His children may be grown, his work identity no longer defined him, and his once busy household may echo with silence. In those still hours, the question of companionship becomes more than just social, it becomes deeply human. Men in their 70s may not openly admit it, but many of them struggle with loneliness. They wake up, pour their morning coffee, and sometimes realize there's no one across the table to smile back at them. That absence cuts deeper than we often realize. It's not about needing someone to cook a meal or fold the laundry. It's about needing someone to share life's small and precious moments with. Women, in these later stages of life, often fill that emptiness in ways that nothing else can. Let's talk about the misconception that men outgrow the need for women as they age. Some believe that once a man reaches 70, his heart quiets, his desires fade, and his need for emotional closeness disappears. But nothing could be further from the truth. The human heart, unlike the body, does not age the same way. While the body slows down, the heart continues to crave love, understanding, and companionship. A 70-year-old man may no longer chase life with the reckless energy of his 20s, but he still hungers for connection. He still wants someone to listen, to laugh, to hold his hand, and to remind him that he is still alive in more ways than one. Think about the role women play in the emotional well-being of men. Men, especially those raised in earlier generations, were often taught to suppress their feelings. They were told to be tough, to keep their emotions to themselves, to man up, but as men age, those unspoken emotions begin to surface. They may not have the same network of close friendships that women usually maintain throughout their lives. Many older men realize that their wives, partners, or female companions are the only people they can truly confide in. Women provide that safe space where men can lower their guard, express vulnerability, and find comfort without judgment. This emotional bond is invaluable, and it is often the lifeline that keeps older men from slipping into isolation. Now let's consider the practical side. Women are often the gentle reminders of life's daily rhythms. A woman might say, "Don't forget your medicine, let's go for a walk," or "You need to eat something green with your dinner." At first, these may sound like small things, but they are monumental in the grand scheme of health and longevity. Studies consistently show that married men or men in long-term partnerships live longer, healthier lives, and it's not just because of love. It's also because of that daily encouragement, that little nudge that keeps a man active, engaged, and connected to the world. Without it, many men slowly fall into unhealthy patterns, skipping meals, neglecting exercise, avoiding checkups, or spending endless hours alone in front of the television. Women, through their presence, naturally pull men back into the rhythm of life. But let me be very clear. When we say men over 70 still need women, it is not always about romance or marriage. Sometimes it is about friendship, companionship, and simple human presence. A widowed man may find great joy in sharing tea with a female friend, discussing old memories, or even going on small adventures together. The laughter and companionship fill a space that solitude simply cannot. Men need women not because they are incapable of surviving alone, but because surviving is not the same as living. Living requires connection, and connection often comes in the form of meaningful relationships with women. Let me share a story that illustrates this beautifully. There was an elderly man, let's call him George, who had lost his wife after 50 years of marriage. For a while, George lived in silence, his days blending into one another with little joy. He would sit by the window, watch the world pass by, and feel that his purpose had ended. But one day, an old friend introduced him to a widowed woman, Margaret. They began having coffee once a week. At first, it was just polite conversation, but soon George found himself laughing again, telling stories again, and even walking with a spring in his step. His children noticed the change. His doctor noticed his improved health. George himself admitted that Margaret gave him a reason to look forward to the next day. He didn't need her to replace his late wife, but he needed her presence to remind him that life was not over yet. That is the quiet yet profound power women bring into the lives of men over 70. Now, let's dive deeper into the psychological side of things. Men over 70 often struggle with questions of identity. Who are they once the career is gone, once the children are independent, once society no longer demands their daily labor? This loss of identity can weigh heavily on the spirit. But when there is a woman by his side, whether a wife, a partner, or a dear friend, she reminds him of his worth beyond those roles. She reminds him that he is still loved, still needed, still capable of joy and companionship. This validation is not just comforting, it is life-giving. Without it, many men drift into depression, believing that their best days are behind them. With it, they rediscover meaning in the simple things, a walk in the park, a shared meal, a heartfelt conversation. And let us not forget the social benefits. Men with female companions remain more socially active. Women tend to encourage gatherings, family visits, and outings, which prevent men from withdrawing into isolation. Isolation, as research shows, is as harmful to health as smoking or obesity. Loneliness literally shortens life. But companionship, particularly the kind that women often provide, extends life and improves its quality. A man with a woman in his life is far more likely to laugh, to talk, to engage, and to thrive, even in the later decades. Of course, some might argue that men over 70 should focus on independence, on not being a burden, on standing alone. And yes, independence is important, but let's not confuse independence with isolation. Independence means being able to care for oneself. Isolation means being left without meaningful connection. One strengthens the spirit, the other weakens it. A man can be independent and still deeply benefit from the presence of a woman. In fact, the balance of independence and companionship often creates the richest and most fulfilling final chapters of life. Now, I must also acknowledge something important. Women, too, need men in these later years. The bond is not one-sided. Women also find purpose in caring, in sharing laughter, in being appreciated. Men and women in their 70s and beyond often discover a more genuine kind of love, one that is less about youthful passion and more about mutual respect, gratitude, and deep companionship. At this stage, love matures into something steady and grounding. And men, whether they admit it openly or not, flourish in this environment. The answer, therefore, is clear. Do men over 70 still need women? Yes, not out of dependency, not out of weakness, but out of the very essence of what makes us human. They need women to remind them that they are still alive, still capable of joy, still worthy of love and laughter. They need women to walk beside them in the final chapters of life, turning the quiet pages into meaningful moments. And so, my friends, when you hear someone scoff and say, "At that age, men don't need women anymore," you can smile and know the truth. Because the truth is simple. Hearts do not age the way bodies do. And at any age, love and companionship are not just wants, they are needs. And that, perhaps, is the most surprising answer of all.